Buttons are the backbone of UI design, and if yours don't have a solid system behind them, your entire design could fall apart. In this video, I'll show you how to build a bulletproof button system in Figma that will keep every single line scalable and easy to manage. Hey everyone, glad to see you again. Let's start. But before diving into Figma, let me explain a few things to you. A button can consist of different elements. Typically, in a button, we have content, and this content can include text, an icon, or even both. The point is that whether or not each of these elements is included in the button is considered a variable. For example, a button where the content only includes text, or a button where the content includes text and an icon on the left. We need to implement each of these variables into our design so that we can have a fully scalable system. This is because in our design, there might be places where we use text without an icon, places where the text has an icon on the left, or even places where there are icons on both the left and right sides. But are these the only variables we have in a button? Not exactly. One more very common variable is the button size. A button can come in small, medium, large, extra large, and several other variations. This variable is usually referred to as size. As you know, naturally, different parts of an app or website may use buttons of different sizes. But here's the question. Do our buttons always have the same style? Exactly no. Sometimes we want to use a button with an outline style, or even a secondary style, or a ghost style, etc. So the next variation we have is called style. Also, our buttons don't always have the same state. For example, you know that when you hover over a button, its state changes. This means the color of the button becomes either lighter or darker to make the hover effect more noticeable. This next variation is called state, which shows the current condition of the button, whether it's normal, hovered, pressed, or disabled. This is about variants, but we should also have the ability when using a button on a page to change its text or icon. This feature is called instance swap. Alright, now it's time. Let's jump into Figma and see how we can build these amazing systems together. Now, please create a design file in Figma. What we want to do is this. Without making anything a component, we'll first create the button system completely as regular objects and then convert them into a component set. The first thing we do is use a text object. So press the T key and type button. For this text, we'll use the inter font with the medium style, size 16 points, and a line height of 20 pixels. Note that the standard button sizes are as follows. However, keep in mind that these sizes are entirely adjustable depending on your project style, but they are a common standard. We discussed these guidelines in detail in my complete UI design course. If you want to learn all the UI design principles fully and systematically, you can sign up for the course. Link in the description below. Alright, now it's time to convert this text into auto layout. So press Shift plus A. You know that by default this will apply a 10 pixel padding to our object. But please change the horizontal padding to 16 pixels and the vertical paddings to 12 pixels. If you're struggling with auto layout, you can watch the video linked at the top of the page to become fully familiar with this great feature. Now for the button's color, it depends on what the primary color of your project is, which comes from your style guide. Let's assume we want blue buttons. So in the field section, apply the color code 5A81FA. Okay, great. Let's make our button a bit softer. Enter 10 pixels in this section. Congratulations, this is the first button you've created and it's not even valuable yet. Why? Because now we need to create different variations of this button. I'm talking about the variants I explained earlier in this session. The first thing we need is an icon. I want to use a really good plugin that we often use in programming. It's called Lucid Icons. So please press Ctrl plus K and search for Lucid Icons. Okay, that's it. Now open this plugin. Try to use a general icon, for example, arrows. I'll import all the icons I need so I don't have to go back to this plugin later. Please import arrow left, arrow right, and arrow up. Great. The important thing here is that we need to turn these icons into components so we can use the instance swap feature. So click on the option Create Multiple Components. Now all we need to do is click and drag and hold the Alt key to make a copy of this icon and drop it into auto layout. But here's a problem. You notice that the height of our button increased because the icon was too tall. we don't want our button height to change. So press Ctrl+Z and set the button height to fixed so it won't change. Great, but the icon still has a large size. So please shrink it to 18 pixels and change its color to white. Now let's do the same for the arrow right icon. It feels like the space between the elements in auto layout is too much, so please reduce the gap to 8 pixels. Great, now we'll do some work where these icons can be hidden or displayed. But sometimes we want our buttons to just have an icon, which is called an icon button. To do this, simply copy this button and place it next to it. Now just delete the text on one of the icons and use instant swap to change the icon to arrow up. Keep in mind that icon buttons should be square, so make sure to apply equal padding for them. It still isn't square because of the 18 pixel icon size, so let's change the button width to 44 pixels to make it square. Great, now we can move on to the different states a button can have. Typically, each button has 4 main states: default, hover, focus, and disabled. There are other states like mouse down, but I want to keep things simple in this video. You can add as many states as you want in your designs. Now let's use some guides so we don't get lost. First, let's change the page color to white so we can see the guides clearly. Press the T key and type states next to them. I'll use 12-point font size and apply auto layout so they're in a group. But all 4 types of buttons look identical right now, so let's actually apply the states. For the hover state, we'll use slightly lighter color. The code is 6A8EFB. For the focus state, we'll add a stroke with color code CBD7FD. It's a light blue and 3 pixel thickness positioned outside. For the disable state, we'll use color ABBFFC. Great, now we have a complete set of buttons. But sizes and styles are still left. Let's start with the size. Duplicate the entire button set twice, then copy the guide in here, change the auto layout to horizontal, and add the size labels: large, medium, and small. Can you see any difference in their size? Neither can I. Select all the medium-sized buttons and in the design panel, reduce their size to 40 pixels. Great, just make sure to turn the icon buttons into squares again, so apply 40 pixel width to all of them. But as you learned, medium-sized buttons should have 14-point text, so select all the text and change the size to 14 points. Now quickly do the same for the small buttons but with 32 pixel size. Great, now reduce the text size to 12 points and also reduce the icons to 15 pixels. Awesome, our system is ready. But what's left? Great, the style variants. Now let's copy all the buttons along with the guides and place them below. In this video, due to time constraints, I'm only gonna create one style variant. But in real projects, you may have up to 10 style variants. My new style will be secondary. Select all the buttons in this row, change all background colors to F3, F4, F6. Naturally, the text is invisible, so we'll use the primary color for the text. You can choose it here. For the hover state, use color E0, E2, E8 and keep the text the same primary color. For the focus state, use the background color F3, F4, F6. The only difference is that focus buttons will have a stroke to show they're in focus. That's it, change the text to the primary color. For the disabled state, we'll again use F3, F4, F6 for the background. But for the text, we'll use a less saturated color to indicate that the button is disabled. Use color A, B, B, F, F, C for this. Great, now your system is ready to be turned from regular objects into a component set. But a really great technique is to rename the components before converting them to components. Lined up. Love this light. Look at the first button. It's called frame 1, which is a name that has no relation to our button. When creating a button system, we need to look at the first button, check what variables it has, and name the variables accordingly. So select all the buttons and press Ctrl+R to rename them all. Now we want to write all the button attributes in one place. But let's assume we're just looking at the first button. Tell me, what features does this button have? First, I'll say the size of this button is large. Then I'll say the state of this button is default. Then I'll mention that it has icon and text. And this style is primary. Now rename it so these names apply to all of them. Now we'll proceed with adjustments. Naturally, the attributes aren't the same for all the buttons. For example, select the entire column, press Ctrl+R, and replace size equals to large with size equals to medium. Now do the same for the next column, but change the size to small. But do you agree that the entire row has a different style? So select the entire row and change the primary to secondary. If I open the layers panel, you can see this style has changed to secondary. Great. Now a bit faster. All these buttons here and these here, also here, have icon-based content. So let's change icon and text to icon. Great. The last thing we want to do is apply the states. Do you agree that this row and this row have a hover state? So change default to hover. Okay, that's it. Also, this row and this row will change from default to focus. And this row, also this row, it will change from default to disabled. Now it's time. Please select all the buttons and click Create Components in the Design panel. By doing this, you'll see that all the variants and attributes we defined for naming are automatically generated. That's perfect. Rename the component to button, and now if we go to the assets panel, you'll see the button. Click and drag a sample below. Great. Now from the design panel, we can easily test different button states. For example, I want my button to have a secondary style. Great. Or I want to be in the focus state, or even an icon button. You can see how the system is working perfectly. But you might be wondering, what if I want to change the icons or choose whether or not the icons are present? What should I do? For this, simply create a Boolean variable. Select the component, enable the multi-edit option to select similar objects, and select these icons. Now, from the appearance section, create a variable property of type Boolean. Name it show left icon. Now, from the list, choose it. While it might not seem like anything has changed, if we go back to the button we added earlier, in the design panel there is an option named show left icon that you can toggle to show or hide the icon. This is truly amazing. Alright, I'll quickly do the same for the right icon. Now you can see that the right icon can also be toggled on or off. But what if we want to change the icon itself? For this, simply create an instance swap. Select all the icons again and create an instance swap here, naming it left icon. Now, if you go back to the button, you can see that from here, you can choose any icon you've imported into the project and convert it to a component. Do the same quickly for the right icon and icon button. The last thing you can do is control the button text from the design panel. Simply select all the text again, then from here, create a variable property called text. Now, if I select the button, you'll see that you can change the text from here. I love Figma. In real-world projects, button design systems are usually much larger and more complex, like the example you see here. Okay guys, I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.